I'll start talking. So as you can see, Catherine's with me tonight. We're going to talk about habits. And Catherine and I think you recommended the book to me, and then I saw it showed up on my Audible, and I thought, somebody smart told me to read this. I don't remember who. I'm just going to start reading it. And then we remembered that it was Catherine. So this book is called Atomic Habits, and it's not by the same person who wrote Power of Habits, is it?
No.
Different person.
Different person.
Similar ideas.
James Clear.
James Clear. So James Clear has made habits perfectly clear for us to understand. It's a really good book, and we're not just going to stick to talking about the book, but it just kind of jogged this in my mind. This is what we should talk about this week. And Catherine is a master of good habits for a couple of different reasons. You guys know that I talk about habits all the time, and habits, I believe, are incredibly important. If you're going to be able to become great at martial arts, you have to have great habits. Discipline is huge. And Catherine, in her other world, is a professional organizer. Why don't you talk about that? That's got to do with habits, right?
Somewhat, yes, it does. I mean, as a professional organizer, what I do with my clients is I help them create good habits so that they stay organized, because being organized is all about the habits that you have in your life. Like, what you do with your mail as it comes in the door. If you're constantly putting it down and leaving it in a pile, then you're going to end up with piles. If you're opening it and dealing with it every day, you're not going to have piles of mail to deal with every day. So, it's depending on what you do in your life and how you can make your life easier by creating good habits. That's what I help teach my clients. And that's what I bring into my life and how I attempt to have lots of discipline in my life to do lots of martial arts.
I'm sure you do. So I think that it's got to be kind of similar to martial arts, where like people think of martial arts as in I'm going to learn how to punch and kick people and beat people up, and I don't see how that has anything to do with the rest of my life, but it sounds like fun, and maybe I'll get a good workout and I can defend myself. And they come in here, we trick them to come into the dojo by telling them, you're going to learn self-defense and you're going to get a great workout, but then we get them in here and we actually trick them into making their whole life better by creating these better habits and having lots of discipline, and meditation, of course, is probably the biggest one. And it's probably the same for you, where people think of, on some level, at least I did, like professional organizer. She's going to make sure my closet is clean and that there's not just junk all over the place, and that's it. And then you probably get in there and you're like, yeah, but this is how we're going to have to kind of change the way that you do things in the rest of your life. Because you can't just go in there and clean it up once and then say that's it, because a week later it's going to be a mess again.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And that whole thing of like, you can tidy up, that's one thing, but staying organized is something completely different. So the same thing with your life and with martial arts too. You can learn to do a punch, but you're not going to learn to do it well unless you practice it. And unless you've got good habits, you're never going to practice it. So. Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about a couple of basic ideas, but we'll talk to you guys. If any of you want to volunteer, including people out in the internet world, if you guys we're going to be asking for habits. It's either habits that you don't like that you would like to break, or it can be a habit that you don't have that you would like to create. And so we'll kind of use them as real world examples of what we're talking about. So starting now, if you guys want to put anything in the comment section, and you guys be thinking about this, but mostly be thinking about what we're saying. So it's broken down, and some of you guys have heard me talk about habits before in a similar way. It's kind of broken down to four components in the way that a habit ends up coming to fruition in your life. So the first thing is the cue, and the cue is like, let's use a habit as an example. We used smoking when we were talking before, because neither of us smoke, but I think we know people who have, so we can kind of understand it. Let's say smoking is the habit that we're talking about. And so the cue could be, I'm at work and somebody comes over to my cubicle, and this is what I imagine happens out there in the world. Everyone's sitting in a cubicle and somebody kind of taps on your cubicle and they're like, hey, it's time, we're going to go take a smoke break, come on. And that's the cue. And so then the next thing after the cue is the...
Next thing after the cue is the response. No, it's not.
No, it's the craving.
The craving.
So I'll just keep talking. So the craving.
The craving.
The craving is the thing where it's like they say smoke and you go, oh, yes, I must have it. I must have that, whatever it is that I don't smoke, but it's something about like the physical sensation, but also the social aspect of it. It's all the like craving. And I personally think for a lot of people it is, yes, I get to stop working for a second and go do something else. So it's the craving. So first the cue, then the craving, and the next thing is the response. You want to talk about the response?
Yeah, the response really is then you go and do something about it, right? It's like this, it's the thing that you do based on the cue that you have and the craving that you have, then you're doing something.
In this case, it would be.
In this case, it would be actually going to have a smoke.
Going to smoking. That's right. And the last thing.
The last thing is the reward.
The reward. That's right.
Yeah, and then that's the satisfaction that you get from having done that thing that you just did in terms of a habit.
So the reward for smoking would be like the way that it actually feels when you're doing it. You're feeling that whatever it is that you feel, the satisfaction physically or the social satisfaction or the break that you got to take or whatever it is. And so at each point in this cycle, there is kind of an opportunity to break in there and disrupt, or to break in there and create a new habit. And I like to think on some level of habits as like there's no such thing as a good habit on some level, because if I'm just doing things mindlessly, it means that I'm not staying focused. But the more that I get into thinking about and studying habits, it's like habits are great if you're choosing them. If you are consciously deciding how you want to live your life, it's like I come into class and I learn how to throw the punch a certain way. I'm deciding with a lot of awareness exactly how I'm going to move my body, and it's all those repetitions that create the habit. And then if somebody actually attacks me, this would be a good habit for me to be able to throw that punch without having to think, wait a minute, does my thumb go inside or outside? Because then it's too late at that point. So to be able to create habits consciously is what we're talking about, and to kind of break it down along these steps is really great. So let's take it out to the people. Let's see if anybody has anything yet. Does anybody have anything up there yet? What do we got?
Tina's asking that she wants to create a habit of going to bed earlier and reading instead of sitting on the couch and looking at her phone until late. That's what she said.
Wonderful. So we've got going to bed early and reading. This sounds like a compound habit, or like a, what do they call it? A stacked habit. Let's get it. The going to bed, well, no, we got to take them in chronological order.
Yeah, instead of sitting on the couch and
looking at
the
phone, we got to start with reading.
Yeah, well, actually, I think we've got to start with her having the phone to start with.
Right, but the first habit. Okay, so you're saying you got to first break the habit. This is going to get real complicated, Dina. Buckle up. So go ahead. So
there are 4 laws that James Clear talks about in his book in terms of how you interact with each of those stages of the habit loop. And the first one is the cue. And you either make it easy or make it hard, depending on whether you want to create the habit or break the habit. So in this case, Dina wants to break the habit of her having the phone on the couch, right? So the first thing to do would be to make sure she doesn't have the phone on the couch. Like perhaps before she even gets to the couch, she goes to plug her phone in to charge it for the night. She's done with it. She just doesn't have it
this is a really simple idea. When you're looking at a cue, if you're trying to create a new habit, you want to make it easy. If you're trying to break a habit or get rid of a habit, you're trying to make it hard. So in this case, it's literally just don't have your phone there would be the simplest thing to do. Plug it in. He uses the example many times. I guess he drinks a lot of beer, but he uses the example of putting the beer in the back of the fridge instead of in the front of the fridge, right? So if it's there, or no, that's kind of making it obvious. Anyways, it's the similar idea, right? If it's not there, you don't get the cue. If you don't have your phone, you're like, oh, what? It's not there, so you're gonna just go do something else. I guess you want to go all the way through. What if we stick in here putting a book out there to make that obvious?
Yeah, you could.
Let's try that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to make the good habit. On the flip side, we're talking about creating the habit of reading. You want to make the good habit, the cue for that, something that's obvious. So you make it easy, right? You make it obvious. This is making it obvious.
Yes.
Great. So you're going to put a book there. So the thing that you see instead of your phone, which takes you down the rabbit hole of I'm on my phone until all hours of the night, you see the book, which takes you down the good rabbit hole that you want to be on, which is I'm reading this book. So it's pretty simple. You take the phone away and you put the book there instead. We're really talking about both breaking a habit and creating a habit at the same time, so try not to get confused. And I'll try also not to get confused. So the next one, the cue, after the cue is the craving. And the craving, what was the law about the craving again? Make it attractive. That's right.
Exactly. So it has to be a book you want to read. If you're talking about the book that you're talking about reading, right? And if you wanted to like make it unattractive with the phone, maybe you would make it like a rule for yourself that you're only allowed to go on to, I don't know, some app that you don't actually like.
That's right.
You have to do that first before you can do anything else.
Yeah, so whatever you're doing on your phone, Dina, you got to change it to, I've got to
balance my checkbook.
Yeah, balance my checkbook on my phone. Yeah, nobody's going to pick up their phone to do that.
No, exactly.
Perfect. Before you're allowed to do the other thing,
yeah.
or just like not at all.
Yeah.
And then the book has got to be something that's attractive. I had this, so I've been reading. One of my goals for last year actually was to read one book a month, and I've been doing it mostly on Audible, and I blasted through that. I read like 24 books, I think, over the year, and there were, for the most part, books that were kind of entertaining that I liked, that I was very interested in, and every once in a while I would think I'd get a book like, I know I should really read War and Peace. It's something that people say you're supposed to read, and so I got it on Audible, and like an hour into it, I don't know what country we're in or who any of the characters are. I'm having a very difficult time being engaged in and enjoying this book. It is not attractive. So that habit, like I found myself just reading or listening to that less often. And so then I thought, this is just not working for me. So I got to just switch to a different book. I switched to a more interesting book, and I was back to just reading it over very often, several times throughout the day. Okay, so that's the idea of the craving, making it attractive versus unattractive. What's the next thing? We're talking about the response.
Yeah.
So what's the rule with that again?
So the rule with that is making it obvious, isn't it?
No, I think this one's making it, I thought this one was making it easy.
Maybe this one's making it easy.
Yeah, let's just say that this one's making it, it's
Okay.
very
And the
similar.
previous
It's
one,
very similar to the first one.
Very similar, indeed. So you've already got your book. I would say have your book down on your couch or by your couch area, because that's going to be like, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to be reading rather than my phone, because normally you would be on your couch with your phone. If you replace the phone with the book, then you're like, oh, I've got my book here.
Yeah, if you've got to go somewhere else to find your book, that's not easy. It's not going to work.
That's not going to work. So either you read on the couch with your book, or you go, oh, I'm supposed to be reading my book, I'm going to do that in bed, and you take your book up to your bed. Either is going to be fine, but the book's going to be like
yeah,
a
well, let's not
message.
get into the going to bed early thing. That's going to confuse everybody. But it certainly would work. For me, one of the best things to do is every night I'm laying in bed and just have the book there and I read it, and that kind of puts me to sleep. That's kind of a separate thing for you going to bed early. Okay. And then the flip side of that would make it hard. So we kind of talked about this. You don't have your phone right there. So it's got to be both unattractive and hard. Figure out a way for the phone thing.
Side of it. Yeah, absolutely.
And then the last thing is the reward.
The reward.
Yeah, so the reward, how would we talk about this with the phone thing? So the reward has to be, it's whether something is satisfying or unsatisfying.
Unsatisfying. You
So
have
the
to make
phone,
it very dissatisfactory.
It's unsatisfying.
Unsatisfactory. Yeah.
Unsatisfactory. How do you do that with the phone? It's kind of something about you're not letting yourself do the thing that you want to.
Yeah,
on your
I
phone.
mean, you could do something like give yourself a punishment if you do it.
Yes. Yeah, let's do that.
So you have to do 100 push-ups if
That's right.
you're on your phone
You have
right
to.
before you go to bed. So that would be one
We're
thing
telling
to
you,
know.
Dina, you do your phone tonight. You can watch the rest of this talk, but after that you have to put your phone away or it's 100 push-ups.
That's right.
Yeah, something like that, or making it satisfying. So if it's let's pretend that it's not satisfying to read a book to you. I find it very satisfying, but some people don't like reading. You kind of attach something else to that. You say like,
Yeah, maybe you have a favourite cup of tea that you have while you're reading.
Sure.
And you drink your cup of tea while you're reading, and that's very satisfying. So you can pair other things with something to help to kind of like help it along.
She's still talking to us?
She doesn't like your plan.
Too bad. So let's ask me about going to bed early in a class, because we spent enough time on this one.
Yeah.
Anybody else have one? They want something they want to create or something they want to break. You guys yes, go.
I meditate at night and I don't like it because I get really tired. And I want to meditate in the morning, but it's super hard to bring myself to do it in the morning. But when I do it, I'm like super happy about it.
Great. Okay, so starting the habit of meditating in the morning. Let's not talk about breaking the habit of meditating at night, because I'm fine with you continuing to do that. But let's try to create the habit of meditating in the morning. Okay. So the first thing that we've got to deal with is the cue.
The cue, yeah. So when you do meditate in the morning, why do you meditate in the morning when you do?
Yeah, how's that happen? Steph just yells at you. She's like, "You need to meditate." You were grumpy last.
I usually I'll get up, have a glass of water, and then sit. But sometimes I'm just lazy.
But wait a minute. Is it the fact that you drank the water that makes you sit?
No, I just have to do it first thing. If I do anything else.
Okay. So I think we have to create a cue for you, because it doesn't sound like you have a cue. It sounds like it's just something that kind of happens sometimes and doesn't happen the other times. The cue is like a thought pops into your head. I really should meditate right now, right?
Where's your glass of water?
Yeah. Where's your water? So
At the sink?
So what are you getting at?
Yeah, so what you could do is right beside your bed, like when you're getting up, like there's a glass of water you're going to drink, and then you know you're going to go meditate. Like have a glass of water there ready, and you go, the glass of water means that once I've drunk that, it means I'm going to go meditate.
Or if you really want to do this the right way, put your glass of water. So do you meditate in the same room that you're sleeping in, which would be the bedroom? Well, so let's just say that for now. Right now, because this will be the easiest way to do it. Once it's in a different room, then you have to do something else. I meditate in my bedroom. So let's just say that you take the glass of water and it's in an obvious place, which is right next to where you meditate. You sit first, drink the water, and then you're there, right? So the cue is like time for a glass of water. To get to it, it's right there in front of where I'm meditating, which is, the idea of making it obvious. It's right there. So this cue is in my face. It's when I get out of bed, the thing that's staring at me is meditating, right? And you're right. As soon as you go off and do something else, you've kind of taken away that first easy opportunity for the meditation. If you pick up your phone and start messing around on that, it's shot. If you go, start doing work or leave the house or whatever, you're probably not going to be meditating, or at least it's not going to be as easy unless your cue is somewhere else down the road. But let's just say right now, you want to do it first thing, that's the way to do it. So then the next thing would be the craving. You should crave meditation.
Yeah.
So you've got the glass of water. Well, you've got the cue. The cue is I'm seeing the glass of water and I'm seeing the place to meditate. Well, how's that work with a craving? Was a craving I got to get the glass of water?
No, I think it's a step past that. It's like I want to be meditating. Like that's the part, and what meditating brings to you and brings to your life.
You already meditate at night. It's not like you're having to make this up from scratch. So there is a desire, there's a craving for meditation and for the calmness and the greatness that brings to your life. So you just stick that right in the beginning of the day with the glass of water.
And as you're drinking your glass of water, perhaps you're thinking about, I get to sit down and create that calm for the rest of my day today.
Great.
Yeah.
Next thing is the response. The response.
He's already sitting
down. You
meditate.
All you have to do is close your eyes and you're there. That's great. And that's already very attractive. I mean, if you're somebody who's trying to create a habit of meditating from scratch and you're not meditating at all, it's a lot more difficult. You have to really get in the habit from just doing it. Like I like to talk about this more recently, at least, is just meditate for the smallest amount of time that you can conceive of meditating for, that will make sure that you do it every single day. Or you can meditate for the largest amount of time that you know that you'll do every single day. But for some people, it's literally a minute. It's like I set a timer on my phone, it's 1 minute, because everybody can do anything for 1 minute. And so you just do it for a minute and you get that consistency, and then you start to make it from there. I've already made it easy. I've already got that consistency in it. And then I can start to expand on the amount of time, and that's going to lead to deeper meditations and all that. But I digress. So the last part is the
reward.
The reward that you get for it.
Yeah.
So, meditation is its own reward.
Absolutely. And I know that Doug's going to get huge satisfaction for actually sitting down and doing it on a consistent basis, and that's really going to be a big reward for you, right?
For something like this, where it's like the habit is its own reward, and it's a little bit tricky to talk about it that way, because you could even think of it like, well, I want to eat healthy food, and eating healthy food should be its own reward, but it's not enough to make it work for me. So I keep finding myself going to McDonald's. So you might have to add something to it. So whatever that is, after I meditate for X amount of time, I'm going to give myself this reward of, if it's Dina apparently sitting on your couch, reading your phone, or whatever it is.
Or a smiley face on a chart, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That can work.
Doug is an adult, but it could still work for him too.
It works for me.
A smiley face, yeah. Well, you look back on your month and you see all these smiley faces, and you can't help but smile at all those smiley faces. Sure. I mean, and it could honestly be something as simple as that, because it's what it represents, that satisfaction, that sense of like accomplishment. I've done this thing, and so you feel good about it.
And there are a ton of apps actually too that you can use on your phone that help you with habit forming. And one of the things they talk about a lot is chaining. So when you do something one day and you do it the next day, you start making a chain, and you don't want to break the chain. Like, you just want to keep it going. And that's actually
you start to feel really guilty. It's like, I've done this for so many days. I'd feel like an idiot if I stopped now. Yeah, so you really got to get that guilt involved. Oh man, we're almost out of time. We have really talked a lot about this. Well, I guess we're not going to take anybody else's right now. But if you guys have habits that you want to talk about breaking or creating, let's take this into the normal classes. And if you guys want to comment on the video, you can do that as well. But any closing thoughts about this? There's a ton of other stuff that we did not talk about at all. We'll have to do another one later on.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that I want to say mostly is that one of the things that people struggle with mostly with habits is if they don't do the thing that they wanted to do, like what then? It's like, just do it anyway. Do it again. Like, if you miss a day, don't worry. Do it again. Just the thing is getting back to the action that you want to have in your life. Go back to it all the time.
This kind of related to the idea of instead of focusing on like the goal of I had to have done it every day, and if I missed, then I lose it all. It's focusing on being the kind of person that would do that. So he makes this point clear in the book about if I'm all wrapped up in having to do the outcome. And this is what I talk about with commitment versus attachment. It's the same basic idea. If I'm attached to the outcome rather than committed to just being this kind of person, then that attachment has a way of just not working very well in motivation. It kind of falls apart pretty quickly. But if you are committed to this, or you're the type of person who wants to meditate every day, you're the type of person you want to be. It's like I identify as a meditator. You identify as that person, that's going to kind of lead you to the action. And even if you miss a day, and you were attached to I have to meditate every day, it falls apart. But if you miss a day and you are identifying as a meditator, it is not even a blip. It's just like, okay, the next day I just meditate, and you don't skip a beat with it. So this is a really important idea too. It's the same thing with goals. You commit to being the type of person who does this. You commit to the action, and then when it doesn't happen, you just do it the next day without losing your motivation. You just continue on down the road.
Yeah.
So that's where we'll stop for now. And for those of you guys who aren't meditating every day, let this be the first day of the rest of your life where you meditate every single day. This can be the start. It's as simple as this. Sit comfortably.